In this video I will tell you what I think is the best crap to buy if you just started painting minis. I'm Alex and you're watching Winterwolf Miniatures. Why should you listen to me? Well, you probably shouldn't, if I'm honest, but I have been enjoying the miniature hobby for roughly 20 years, and in that time painted many armies and many models, and I also own a lot of crap. So I think I at least have a vague idea about what I'm talking about. Have in mind that these are my personal opinions and they might not fit everyone. There! Now when we have finished with the disclaimers, let's begin with the video. Let's wait for the car to drive past and have a snooze. If you are really interested in my opinions because you're starting or thinking about starting miniature painting, or if you're just here to see if I share your opinions, does not matter. I'm happy that you are, and let's begin. There are three things that I think is the most essential. It's the paint, the brushes, and a palette. Paint is of course one of the more obvious things you need to buy. So let's start with that. My first advice with paint is to not buy too many of them, but more on that later. You need paint, so what paint should you buy? Well, the easiest answer is most likely the best answer. You should buy Vallejo paints, one of the starter set maybe. I use almost exclusively Vallejo paints and I'm very satisfied with them. The big pros are in no particular order: price, range, quality and accessibility. Cons? No. But what if you don't want to buy Vallejo paints for some strange reason? Maybe you are part of some kind of weird religion who shun things that's the most obvious choice. If you are and want to know what paint you should buy, you should probably look into Citadel paints. Pros with Citadel paints is of course quality and range and accessibility. Cons, price and that cute little bottle. So about the quantity, I recommend that you maybe buy a starter set and complement that with a few colors of your choice. Buy too many paints and you're just gonna make it harder for yourself. Sure, I have a lot of paint and many YouTubers do, but do I use all of them? No, I don't. Why is the reason I have so much paint? One reason is that I'm an adult that have a bit of disposable income and I already own more models than I could possibly paint in a year. The second reason is that it looks cool as a backdrop in the videos. And the third reason is that I paint a lot of different things because I have many armies, so I kinda need more paint. Even though I basically use the same ones. When I'm painting an army, I mostly use a handful of paints for the whole army. If you just want to paint your army, there is no reason to buy so much different paint. If you're just interested to paint whatever, you don't really need that much paint either. You can mix the ones you need, and when you realize what paints you're constantly mixing yourself, that's what you buy next. Paint that you not use is the most expensive paint. And what and how you paint pretty much decides what paint you need. And if you're just starting out, you probably won't know that yet. So what about a palette? I really recommend trying a wet palette if you haven't already. It was one of the biggest game changers for me, and I suddenly felt free and in control of my paint, if that makes sense. They are not that expensive. I use this one from Army Painter, but I'm sure they're all fine. You can very simply make one yourself if you want to try the concept. There is videos here on YouTube if you want to try that out, and I think you should. That leaves the brushes. You pretty much need two types of brushes. Let's call them fancy brush and crappy brush. The crappy brushes are the easiest one to explain. You just get the cheapest brushes you can find, and I mean that. The cheapest one you can find. And you use those brushes for everything that you don't want to use your fancy brush for. The dirty jobs, like when you're applying PVA glue to something, texture paints, effects, dry brushing, all things that's not regular, thin acrylic paint. For that you use your fancy brush. For fancy brush I recommend that you get a nice one straight away. And you should get a Kolinsky Sable. They can be a bit pricey, so I recommend that you take a bit of time to maybe watch a YouTube video or two on how to take care of them, so you don't ruin it. My favorite is the Raphael 8404. It's an expensive brush if you ruin it straight away, but if you take good care of it, it will last you a very long time. A size 2 is a good start, because you can do pretty much everything with that. It's big enough, yet the point is pointy enough. So why do I recommend a Kolinsky brush? Well, they are considered to be the best brushes for our hobby, and I agree with that. And the truth is, with our small sizes of brushes we use, the price difference is not that great. Even though I don't necessarily think a new painter would perform any better with the Kolinsky Sable, or even notice the difference, I still think it's a good idea. It will last longer, and therefore the price will be pretty much the same in the end. Why not start with the tool you're probably going to end up using anyway? And that way you can't blame the brush, only yourself. And here you see what I mean. I've gathered all my brushes. Here is all the crappy ones, my crappy brushes. Over here is my fancy brushes. At the moment I have 3 Raphael 8404s. A size 0, a size 2 and a size 3. You of course don't need all of these sizes to get started. A size 2 or a size 3 will be perfect. But when you feel like buying something more, a size 0 is great investment. The rest of the things you need for the miniature hobby is in my mind not as important. Make it your priority to get yourself a good brush and good paint. The rest of the stuff like clippers, knives, drills and what have you are all good tools, but they don't necessarily impact the final result as much. And most of those things you probably already have at home. So a quick recap of that. Get yourself good paint rather than a lot of it, and get yourself a good brush and take care of it. You will have a fun time and it will be more economical in the end. And of course try a wet palette. Hope that's helpful. But what if you have been painting for a while and want to add things to your hobby station? What should you buy then? In that case, the first thing I'm gonna recommend is that you get yourself some decent lighting. A nice work lamp is gold. And some smaller things are maybe an X-Acto blade, nice pair of clippers that you only use for your miniature hobbies, not for anything else. Some sanding paper, sanding sticks, files maybe. And a drill can be useful, I mean those small hand drills. And maybe some milliput or green stuff. And when you have painted for a while and feel that you like the hobby and know you're gonna keep doing it, that's when I think it's time to get an airbrush. I use mine all the time, especially for priming and base coating, and you don't need an expensive airbrush for those purposes. As with the fancy brush, that's a bit of an investment as well. So just watch a video too about how to maintain it, how to clean it and how to use it properly. It is very simple though. Basically it's just keeping it clean and make sure not to bend the needle. Also, you can use your normal paint. Just thin it a bit with water. It's fine. You don't need to buy any special paints for an airbrush. And that's about it, I think. Did I miss something obvious? I probably did. If so, make sure to let me know in the comments. Before we call it in this video, I would like to give you 5 more additional quick tips. But before that, I would like to remind you to please hit like on the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Okay, so 5 quick additional tips to new painters. 1. Get good lighting. A proper work lamp, or at the very least a daylight bulb, or sit by a window. 2. Don't buy too much crap. You don't need it. Get started and buy what you need when you need it. 3. Set up either a permanent paint station in your home, or make sure you can set up and take down your equipment fast and easy. This will make it easier to just sit down and paint for a few minutes, which more often than not turns into much longer time. As with many things in life, when we are actually doing something, it's often fine, fun and nice, but to get going can sometimes be rough. Make the startup process as easy as possible and you'll notice you sit down painting much more often and probably longer. Number 4. Don't use black or white. What I mean with that is actually a lot of things. Firstly, pretty much nothing in nature is pure white or pure black. So that always looks a bit weird. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't use them, because you can and you should. But pure white is the lightest color there is, right? So it would only be used very sparsely and only in the very extremest highlight cases. The same with black, but the other way around. I use both black and white quite a bit, but in my darker paint style I don't think I ever used pure white on its own as a color that will remain seen on the finished model. Use it as a base coat under another bright color, sure, to mix a really bright color into something even brighter, yeah, but on itself, no. Same goes with mixing. Try use other colors when mixing your paint. If you only use white or black, you'll lose saturation. If that's what you want, fine, but often it's not. Okay, that was a long one, even though I tried to keep it short. So let's do the last one really quickly. Do it. That's it. No, I mean 5. Remember to do it. Watching videos like for instance this one is great and you can learn a lot of good things. It can also entertain and inspire you, which is important. But remember to actually do it yourself as well. It takes practice and practice takes time. There is simply no way of getting around that. And with that, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Have fun. No matter what you do, a painted model is always nicer than an unpainted one. And that's all I had this time. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you soon.